I don't think he's a number one option. I think he could be a great number two option. And if you bring in Donovan Mitchell, I don't think it's Jalen Brunson that's going to be the two option. I think it's going to be RJ, the two option. Brunson, the third option. And if Randall's still there, Randall, the fourth option. Because that, if you watch what Thibodeau did in the second half of the season, he was slowly but surely moving RJ to the first option, and that's why Randall was yelling with the fans, because none of the fans wanted him to be the number one option. After we saw the year with the COVID-19, when there were no fans, he was dominating. When fans came and started coming and watching the games, I don't think he could handle the fans. I think that was a huge problem for Julius Randle, and you could check the numbers. Go look at the numbers. I said it first. When the fans started coming in, his numbers started to dip significantly. I'm talking about 4 or 5 points. So maybe he can't play in front of fans. Maybe he was better off playing in front of nobody. So that's my opinion.
I don't disagree with you on that, but it also makes you have to be nervous that the team gave him a 4-year, $117 million contract.
Well, he only has 2 years left on that contract, but
I mean, 2 years left and a player option for the third. I can tell you right now, at $30 million, he's probably picking up that player option, guys, because I don't think he's going to get anywhere close to that in the next deal.
If the Knicks don't trade him, and they could move him. And they'll be if he has a good season this year. Let's say he is a fourth option. He's given the Knicks 16-10. That's great for a fourth option. Teams are going to look at that and they're going to say, okay, well, we can make him a 25-10 guy. Because remember, a year ago he was 24 and 11, and he was an all-star, comeback player of the year. So I just think the problem with Julius Randle right now is, can he handle the New York pressure? I don't know if he can. We know Brunson grew up in New York. We know Donovan Mitchell grew up in New York. And RJ, he looks like he can handle it. He's gotten better and better and better every single year. So I don't know what RJ is going to be. I've always said this, and Speedy could agree with me. I believe that RJ, when he hits his top end, we've seen what Williamson could do. We've seen what Ja Morant could do. If the Knicks could give him the option to really grow into that player, I think he's a 25-9 guy. I really think that's what RJ Barrett is. And if you can get 25 points from your second option, second option guy, he's an all-star. And that's what I think.
You are far more optimistic than me.
He has
not shown the explosion. He has not shown the explosion of Ja Morant. And
I'm not comparing him to Ja Morant.
No. But like, you're putting him up on that class, right? Like, here's the thing: when you're talking about those guys, and we're not putting him on that level, but we're saying we know what those guys, their special skill is.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what RJ's special skill is. We knew Ja Morant's special skill when he came into the league. Right, we knew what Zion was when he came into the league in terms of just being.
I think we do.
Extremely powerful.
I think we know what RJ Barrett's skill is, and
what
is getting to the hole and drawing fouls. He's working on his free throws. He's gotten better over the last year. I think a matter of fact, I think besides James Harden and who's the other guy, he's in the top 5 with drawing fouls when he gets into the paint in the whole league. So if he's drawing fouls and he's getting to the hole the way he is, and he can just get his free throws up to probably 70, I think he's at, 74, 73%?
No, he was still at 69.
Is he 69?
Yeah.
So if he could get it to 75 like LeBron, you're going to get at least 9-10 points at the line every single game. He's getting to the line a lot. I mean
he's averaging almost 6 free throws a game.
He's getting to the line pretty good amount, 5.8 a game.
That's his strength.
Things like that.
That's his strength.
That's all, but that's not enough, right? Like, that's not the thing I'm going to look at and say, like, cool, I'm going to hitch my wagon on that dude. Like, that's not that. You need something that you need to have a tangible skill besides just, hey, I can get fouled and get to the line, because now you're dependent on the refs.
Actually,
right? And that's a thing where it's like, all right, some days I get the calls, some days I don't get the calls. And in the playoffs, him being a third-year guy going up against the Celtics, going up against the Bucks, he ain't getting those calls in the playoffs.
Right.
So
my
that
bad.
becomes
Actually, 69 was his career total, my bad. It was 71.4 last year.
71.4, which is going up. It's gone up since he's come into the league. So if he could get it up to 75.
It's a dip. 74.6 the previous year, then dropped down to 71. So it's a bit of a up and down there. That goes back to the consistency with him.
Yeah, the league average, I think, is about 75. You might have that exact number.
If he could get to 75%, kind of like what LeBron did, he's going to be he could be a dominant player. And I think he can get to the line. I think he's very good at getting to the line and drawing fouls. And if you look at it, when he was on and when he was the number one option, he was getting to the line a lot more, and the Knicks were winning. He was giving you 25 to 30 points a game. And he has done that. He went on, like a week and a half, like killing, where he was scoring close to 30 points a game. And
he was player of the week 1 week.
Yeah, I think he could do it.
Player.
I think he could do it. I think he could do it.
He's a good player. I just think that's
he's a great defender too. He became a great defender. He really did.
And that's where I got to give Tibbs credit, because that's coaching. That's on Tibbs doing a good job with him on that end. And
we saw seen how important Andrew Wiggins is when it comes to defending the best player on the court. You saw it in the finals. And if RJ could give you that and give you more points than Andrew Wiggins can give you, you got yourself a star. And I look at that way. If you got a shutdown type of defender that you say, okay, I'm going to stick you on the number 2, you're the best 2 guy or the best guard on the team, and I want you to shut him down. If he can do it, you're getting what you need out of him. And that's what I think. That's what I believe. As everybody knows, we are talking to the founder of the jumpball.net, Mo Dakhil.
So Julius Randle, you mentioned there's potential that he could still end up getting traded. Now, he was initially thought to be traded in the Mitchell deal, but now it doesn't seem like that's the case. Do you still see him getting traded if they do bring in Mitchell in a separate deal, or even like a 3-way deal, if that's the case?
I mean, yeah, I think there's a possibility of it. I just don't know where at this point. I think like a lot of teams are looking at it going like, look, he had a hell of a year his first year as a Knick, and it was really impressive and most improved and everything that went with that. Then last year, he hit the tank, and I think it wasn't any way he could replicate it. And I think now it's a question of like, all right, well, which Julius Randle am I getting? Because obviously he killed it the year he had a contract year, got the contract, and then he struggled. And I think there's a lot of stuff there. So I don't know if there's going to be a big market for Randle. I think you guys are right when you say like you got to see how he does this season and kind of repairs the value. Now maybe that improves through the course of the year. I don't know if there's an off-season deal, but it wouldn't shock me if he gets moved at the deadline.
It's so interesting when we look at what Julius Randle was on his contract year and what he was last year. And I if you look at the totals and the numbers, obviously his shooting percentage completely dipped, but his numbers really didn't dip as much as people look at it. I mean, he averaged almost 11 rebounds a game in his contract year, and he averaged, I think, 24. Last year he averaged 21. So it dipped 3 points. So did it dip that much? No. I just think Julius Randle couldn't handle the pressure. You saw it, and that's why the fans. And he also still believes he's the number 1 guy. And if Donovan Mitchell goes there, and now Jalen Brunson's there, he's not even. Honestly, he's not even a 3rd option. He's probably a 4th. And that's.
But the other problem with that is now he's clogging the lane.
Yeah.
Right. He's not a guy that's going to step out and shoot. And then the other aspect of it too is just not good defensively. His numbers dipped scoring wise. He also gave up a whole ton more. Right. So I think there's a lot of those issues that you're dealing with in that sense with Randle. So it becomes a hard scenario. Now, listen, I'm all for it. Knicks, go get Donovan Mitchell. You got to make the moves when you can make them. And I think you got to build from there. But it's not an easy one in terms of how much you're giving up and what are you going to have left over to really build after that.
Absolutely. As you know, we were talking to the founder and jumpball.net, Mo Dakhil.
So I want to go back to the Nets. I know you're saying that you're not believing in them. Do you think they're stuck in their trade scenarios where it's going to be very hard for them to move Kyrie Irving now at this point, the Lakers being probably the only team interested now, and Kevin Durant, just so many other stipulations with those trades the team he's interested in with the Suns and the Heat?
I mean, ultimately, I think those guys are coming back. I think they're bringing everybody back this season. I think when you look at it, unless the Lakers are willing to offer a 2nd pick, there's no reason for the Nets to trade Kyrie there. It just doesn't make sense. They're going to take on more money to trade Kyrie there and only get 1 draft pick out of it. And, whatever, THT or something like that's nothing for them. That doesn't move the needle. And pay an extra 11, 12 million for Russell Westbrook. No, you might as well just keep Kyrie for the year. And then I think what you're looking at with Durant is there aren't a lot of places that make sense for him that can actually give the Nets what they need. I think the 2 spots that make the most sense for him for the Nets is New Orleans and Toronto. Now, Toronto's not including Scotty Barnes, so they're basically off the table, right? Phoenix, DeAndre Ayton signed the offer sheet. They matched. They can't trade DeAndre Ayton there. And it didn't seem like Brooklyn had much interest in bringing in DeAndre Ayton. Miami, we know their deal similar in the sense of they just don't have the assets to be able to get KD. The other team that I think is really interesting is New Orleans. I think New Orleans can put a package together with a ton of the draft picks that they're going to get from the Lakers, their own, from Milwaukee. Like, they have so many. They control 2 teams' draft fate for the next couple of years. Like, they can put together a package and center that around Brandon Ingram. That's going to get Brooklyn's attention.
How about Golden State?
Golden State's an option, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, Golden State could put the best package together with the young guys that they have. There's no question. But I also don't think Golden State wants to walk down that road. I think those young guys are going to be the bridge for them for their next, iteration of the Warriors over the next few years as these guys start to kind of fade out. But New Orleans would be the team, I think, where KD can go there. KD, Zion, CJ McCollum. I think just right off the bat there is a pretty interesting trio, and then how you build around it. If you're able to keep Herb Jones with you on the roster and not include him in that deal, that makes things really interesting and all of that.
How about Memphis?
Memphis is interesting. They have the package. They could probably do it. I just don't see them making that big of a move, and I don't think KD is going to be that interested in going to Memphis.
Interesting. It's so interesting when you look at this offseason, and everybody keeps talking about the money some of these players are getting, obviously with the new CBA and new TV deals that are coming out. It all works for these players. When you look at some of the things that we've heard this offseason from LeBron James, and LeBron James is very outspoken for some of the league and some of the players. What were your thoughts to LeBron James saying the things that he said about the league as a whole and really what it's changing into as of more of a league of stars than it is from what it was in the 90s and the 2000 era?
I mean, the honest truth is, and I haven't really listened to a lot of the LeBron comments. Listen, the season's over. I kind of chill for a little bit unless I got to come running back. But the league's always been about its stars. Mm-hmm. Like even in the 80s. It was Magic and Bird. It was Dr. J. It was even when those ads, it wasn't the Boston Celtics. It was watch Magic versus Bird, this and that. Like same thing in the 90s. It was all about MJ. Everywhere you went, and even as he was beginning to kind of fade out, Shaq was all over the place. Little Penny in the commercials and all of that.
So why does he think that the league is more full of stars than it ever has?
I would say that we got a lot of young talent coming up, I think, in a position probably when he was watching basketball. Like, let's just be honest. When Jordan retired, the league was struggling with a level of star talent, right? Nobody at that level.
Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant.
But not to the point that was really blew you away. Kobe was still working his way through and was playing behind Shaq.
Do you think that the talent right now blows you away? I mean,
yeah, I think when you just look at every team across the board, every team has a reason for you to watch. That was not always the case. Let's be honest. There were many years we did not have to watch Sacramento or Minnesota in the 90s. We didn't have any reasons to. Let's be honest.
Chris Webber. I mean, that was a good team. Mike
I was
Bibby.
in the 2000s. I'm talking 90s. There was no reason.
Well, it was the late 90s, early 2000s.
But really, the Kings only got good that 2000.
And what does the Sacramento Kings have right now?
The longest playoff drought in sports.
Yeah, I mean, they're the one team. But look across the board there. You got all these young dudes. Ja Morant killing it in Memphis. Listen, Giannis is like 26 still. He's still a baby.
Yeah.
You just talked about Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They're in their mid-20s. Like, you got a lot of young talent across the board. And the guys that are coming in are constantly just as exciting.